Well, Stephanie, here we are in the first episode of a podcast we have yet to name. So I'm curious to see a little bit about where this goes in the future, obviously. But for the time being, I guess we obviously applied. We both work at American International College. We applied for the NCAA Leadership Academy Workshop. And I guess tell me a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you got to your job as an advisor for student athlete success at AIC.
Sure. So hi everyone, I'm Stephanie. I am the advisor for student athlete success at American International College. My background is in psychology. I did my undergrad work in general psychology at Salisbury University, and then I did my master's at Springfield College in athletic counseling. So I really focused in on helping student athletes on the mental aspect of sport performance, as well as that student athlete development side with team workshops and individual counseling sessions, and found my way here to AIC after a short stint at University of Maryland as a assistant learning specialist intern.
So you obviously knew at least a little bit about AIC from your time at Springfield College. I guess what was your view on the school before you got to AIC, and how has that maybe changed in the time you've been here?
Sure. So I did know a little bit about AIC. Most of it was from the doctoral students who were interning at AIC in a sports psychology aspect. I honestly had never actually been on the campus until I interviewed for the position, even though it's literally a mile down the road from Springfield College. So most of my knowledge of it was seeing the campus store going down State Street. But I did know that it was a smaller school, D2 athletics, very sport-minded institution. And when I was looking at jobs and saw that AIC had an opening and learned more about it, I loved the focus on giving opportunities to low income, immigrant, just those people, a lot of people who might not have all of the opportunities in the world. That's what AIC really focuses on, to give them a chance.
Well, you obviously have a little bit more of the background in the student athlete development part than I do, obviously with me being in communications, but I guess what really what drew you to the NCAA Law Academy, and I guess what made you feel like it was the right moment to hop in to the workshop?
Sure. So although I do have a background in student athlete development, I myself have never created a whole entire leadership program. So I definitely knew I would need to get some help and advice from others in the industry, and NCAA itself putting on a workshop for Leadership Academy. How much better of an opportunity can you get to learn from some of the best within the NCAA industry? So absolutely jumped right on that when I saw that email come through. Hoping once I got in there, really just hoping it would give me a little bit more direction as to how to even start creating a program. I had this broad idea of what I wanted, but actually getting into the nitty-gritty of that implementation process and the steps before that program becomes great. That's exactly what the law program described itself as, and thought it would be a great opportunity since we don't have a leadership academy here at AIC.
Yeah, as part of the whole application process that we obviously went through, we had to answer all these different questions about our background, our thought process on leadership, but also had to get a letter of recommendation, not only from the AD, but also from another senior administrator, which granted in our athletic department at the time was only Jess, interim director of athletics, Jessica Chapin, and senior associate athletic director, Matthew Johnson. So thankfully, we had two people there that we could count on, but we obviously met with Jess a little bit ago about our whole process so far, and now that we've completed Module 1. But I mean, I think Jess has been very supportive and bought into this. I guess what are your viewpoints from what she's talk to you about?
Yeah, so since the beginning, before I was even hired, Jess had talked to me about creating a leadership academy for our student athletes. So even before I had even the thought of bringing one to AIC, Jess was already in support of this. So really glad that she's here with us, going to be that person to help to push us through, especially with upper administration on main campus. She'll be our champion over there. So really excited to have her on our side. I forgot the other part of the question.
I guess in the conversations that we've had with her, or that you've had with her one-on-one, I guess what has her feedback been to you throughout this first process?
Yeah, so she's really told me many times that this is my baby. So to to do with it kind of what I want, keeping her in the loop, and she'll be supportive of what we choose to do as long as she um, sees that there's a benefit and she understands where we came from with it, why our vision is turning us in that direction. So she's hands off but hands on at the same time. She's very supportive. She's been giving us ideas on things to think about, but definitely wanted it to be our little brainchild.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you. I mean, everything that she's told me, and I guess from the meetings that we've had, it's always been fantastic. Just as like, I want to be involved, but I'm going to let you guys take the reign, which I think is fantastic for us. Given that we're going to be actually implementing, building the whole curriculum, I think that's an integral part that she wants to be a part of it, but she doesn't obviously want to drive the bus. So I think her empowering us is definitely going to help us build a solid program moving forward.
Absolutely. So Tom, I'm going to turn this on to you. Can you give us a little bit about your background and how you came to want to participate in law?
Yep. So, born and raised St. Louis, Missouri. Was grateful to have a great family, mom and dad, who definitely instilled some really good values and leadership qualities into me from a very young age. Went to Murray State University and spent 5 years there working with the women's basketball team primarily, and obviously getting education while I was at it. With the knowledge that ultimately I want to be an athletic director, but knowing that coaching would be a way to get to there as well. So after graduation, I moved out to Las Vegas, New Mexico, and was there for 2 years working with New Mexico Highlands University. The first year in assistant women's basketball coach role, and then the second year in the sports information role. I was grateful during my time at Highlands to get to know our SID my first year, and then that sort of transferred into when he left, me filling that position with my video work background. So was able to do that. So then after those 2 years, moved actually up here to Springfield, Massachusetts, to take the director of athletic communications job at AIC. Part of that move was twofold in the move. The first part being that it's a great job, great area, and a good stepping stone for me. And then the next part was I was getting married a year later, and my wife wanted to go back to school for nurse anesthetist. So wanted to provide her opportunities, as down in New Mexico, the closest one school was probably 8 hours away. So obviously that was not going to work, being married and her being in school. So thankfully she got into a program. She's a year and a half in, so about halfway through the program now, and um, going on to my 5th year here at AIC. And I think the reason why I really want to get into the law program was because I've been grateful to have fantastic leaders all throughout my life to help build and shape me into the person I am today. And I ultimately want to invest that into others, especially our student athletes. As obviously anyone who works in college athletics really wants to build those who are around them. And we're obviously all here for the student athletes, because at the end of the day, we're not making money that's going to make us super rich or anything, but we value those relationships and helping others. So I really think that that's what helped draw me to that. It's just wanting to instill the lessons and everything that I've been given and empower others to reach that same level.
Yeah. So now that we have done the first 4 weeks of law, what were what were your thoughts going into it? What were you expecting, and how did that change, if it did, while we were going through these first 4 weeks?
Yeah, I mean, I think after the first night, there was a shell shock. I mean, this is the first time that they're doing this virtually. So for those who don't know, is in Module 1, it's a 4-week system. On every Thursday night, we meet from 6 to 9 p.m., except for the first week, it ran over to around 9:15, 9:30. And we had these homeworks and these different assignments that we had to do beforehand, which is all great. But when you're trying to fit a 2 or 3 day segment into a virtual reality, or I guess a virtual setting, and over 4 weeks, I mean, there's definitely a lot of content that we're going through. So after the first module, the first 4 meetings, my thought process has changed quite a bit. Obviously, I guess part of the way that if you're not thinking about it in the right way, building a program and a curriculum, it can be best practices. I think that's something we talked about, but really, if you want to build a solid program, it goes to the theories, and that's where you need to start. And I
Mhm.
think that that's probably one of the biggest takeaways of that, and making sure that we're building something that's truly inclusive for all of our student athletes, regardless of background, race, identity, whatever it is. Making sure that we have an inclusive program that really benefits everyone who's a student athlete here at AIC, and then that will ultimately spill over to our coaches, to our admin, other side of campus, and everything else. So I think those are the two biggest takeaways I have. I'm curious to hear yours.
Yeah, mine are very similar. Definitely being very intentional with everything that we do while we're planning this leadership program.
Yep.
Before I came in, I was just like, oh yeah, I'll just find some leadership related workshops and activities and throw it together and call it a program. But after going through these first 4 weeks, like I realized that can work, but it's not going to be sustainable. It's just going to be oh, that was a fun thing to do. It's not going to be a really intentional, you are building these leadership skills, you are building this leadership mindset. So yeah, being very intentional with how we plan it, making sure we have the foundation and the framework of a different theory or theories going into it, and really thinking about that vision and mission, like what do we want out of this program, what do we want the students to get out of it, the coaches, the facilitators, the guest speakers, like every single aspect you really need to think about and be intentional on. So that was probably the biggest takeaway that I got from this. Um, I wouldn't say it threw me for a loop, but it definitely made me rethink how I was going about this leadership program.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously it's something that, because we applied together, it's something we had talked about a little bit in
Mhm.
when we were putting the applications together. It's just like after that first night, I think we saw each other the next day at work, and we were just like, holy crap,
What
what is
just
all that? Yeah,
happened?
like our mind was blown, like in a good way. It's like all this information just having to seep in slowly but surely. And I think that that got better, obviously, as the different weeks went on, but still definitely a lot to take in.
Mhm.
Um, I guess, what are your thoughts? I know for me, and doing this, sharing our story as we build this program, I want to use this as, I want other people to be able to use this as a resource, or just this is us talking through different things that we're putting together. Obviously, as we mentioned, we are through the first 4 weeks, but there's a lot that we're going to go back and hit on, and I guess try and rethink of how we were in that moment before everything set in, and then after as well. But I guess, where are you looking to get out of this podcast, vlog, whatever we turn this into, and where are you hoping others can get out of it as well?
Sure. So first, I want it to be more of like a record for us so that we can kind of keep looking back at seeing, oh, what was our thought process with that? Where did we originally want to go? And maybe if we're stuck at some point, we can look back at this and be like, oh, right, like that's where we were going. That was the intention. So maybe that'll help guide us along the way. And I would love for it to be a way for us to also just keep brainstorming. I know we meet outside of this, but this would be a great place to just keep brainstorming and asking each other questions that we might not have asked at our other meetings, and reflecting on any meetings that we have with Jess or our formation group. And then, like you said, maybe this can be a resource for others who are looking to do to build a leadership program, to see where we started, what our thoughts were, where we got stuck or tripped up, and then opening it up to others within the law group, seeing how they're progressing and being able to collaborate on those ideas.
Well, I think you just hit on a very important thing right there, is having others who are in our cohort come on and share, because obviously they're going to have different viewpoints, different values, different everything from what we're seeing, what we're understanding, and really want to see what their um, viewpoint and what their background is, just because I think that will only help us make a stronger leadership program for AIC, but I think will also help them talking through a little bit more and maybe bouncing ideas off each other, and you never know what might stick.
Absolutely. And to go back to like a big takeaway, one of the other ones that I got from these last 4 weeks was that every institution is completely different. They have completely different needs. They're in a completely different space or level. Some might have some sort of leadership academy already, or some sort of leadership development programming, either if it's from athletics or if it's from their student life center. So bringing in all those different perspectives, seeing where different schools are and how they're building upon that, or how they're trying to make their own mark and separate themselves from those other programs. So just getting those ideas rolling.
Yeah, I remember there was a coach back when I was younger. He said the only way to treat everyone fairly is to treat everyone differently. And I think that sort of relates with this is in order to help build whatever we're building, for us a leadership development program or a culture within a team, you have to realize and take into account all the backgrounds and everything that comes with each person, and treat them differently based on their upbringing or whatever they're bringing with them, because ultimately what might be good for one person on the team might be completely different for someone else on the team as well. So I think that's a very good point that you brought up there.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of goes to that equity versus equality
Mhm.
sentiment.
So, well, I appreciate you hopping on, and I'm sure this is going to be the first of many. And hopefully, we can have some other people joining in and hearing their voices and allowing them to share their story and what's going on their campus. But until next time, we'll talk to you all later. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us, and we'd be happy to talk about them here on this platform. So, signing off, I'm Thomas Pool,
Jarosik.
and we'll see you next time.